Hey Tribe, Gavin Seim, and here is the cold hard truth. When you use film, something magical happens. And I've known that for a long time. It's really inspired a lot in my photography, but also when you edit digital with film simulation, something magical happens. That's why I always come back to them. That's why ever since I created Filmist a few years ago, I keep refining and sending out free updates because it's this passion project for me. About, I want to say a month ago, I made the Filmist 1.5 presets, and I also updated the free version of Filmist, and that had the Portrait Gen 2 presets in it. After that, I quietly started going to work on Natura. Natura is this really cool 1600 film that you can no longer get. I've even put my background green today in honor of Natura, okay, and Fuji films. But this is a film that Fuji made. I actually remember buying this off the shelf. Natura 1600, also known as Superior 1600, depending on what market you buy it in. And I remember going into the drugstore to buy this film back in the day because it's a very versatile color film with 1600. And you'll see a lot of chatter about using Natura 1600. The rolls have gotten really valuable. There's a lot of articles about it. There's a lot of people that love Natura, just like there's a lot of people that love Portra because these are classic films. I, for example, also love the Fuji 400H, the Portra. There's a lot of films that I like for different things. But Natura is also very versatile. It kind of has this brightness, this lift to it. There's just a certain magic about it. And ever since Filmist 1, there's more and more people jumping now on the Natura 1600 bandwagon because it's a film that's no longer available. It's a classic. But Natura was actually in the original Filmist collection. But what I've started doing with these Gen 2 presets is really going all in and refining and doing way more study, more than just my examples, looking at articles, looking at YouTube videos, analyzing. I'm just gonna go into Lightroom and I'm gonna show you what we have in Filmist 1.6. So 1.5 brought Portra, 1.6 brings a whole bunch of other updates. I've continued refining, trying to make the films more natural. A lot of Capture One updates as well as Lightroom updates. So make sure if you have Filmist that you download 1.6. If you're seeing this video, it's available in your downloads. But if you don't have it, you can download some free film presets from Filmist. It does not have Nature in it because I can't give everything away. I do have to make a living. This takes an immense amount of time to create these formulas. I also am going to show you some close-ups. If you really don't want to buy presets and you want to play around and kind of recreate this, I'm going to show you close-ups of settings in this as well of what I had to go through to get Natura 1600 refined. And the Gen 2 of Natura 1600 is absolutely next level. So I'm here in Filmist 1.6, and you can see that I can scroll down through all the different films. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of classic films, there's some concept films, but right down here under the Portra, above the Portra is our new Natura 1600 Gen 2. All the Naturas have been redone. And as you can see here, I've got raw files I'm working with. It's great on portraits. What's cool about Natura is it has this beautiful lift. So you can see I apply it and we have this really soft, creamy look. Then I can just go to exposure and I can go higher key or lower key and it just handles it really well because there's a lot of curves in here that are tone value based here. And so if I show you some close-ups of what's going on with Natura, and I'm going to show you settings. So if you want to play with this, right, in the curves, then I have a lot going on. So you can see the parametric curve, the point curve, and then you got this complex stuff going on. You can see what I've done here with color curves to really pull out the colors just right. And this is where I spent so much time to get right. And then of course our hue, saturation, and luminance values for each channel going down here, and we have a little bit of color grading as well. Obviously, these values are going to look a little bit different in Capture One, but I did an immense amount of work dialing in on Capture One in this version as well, just to get those more natural tones across a lot of films. But this was really the star of 1.6 in terms of, yeah, this is game changer. This is an amazing Natura look. So let's go back and keep editing with this. We're going to go through it. I'm going to show you how quick and versatile this is, not just on portraits, but on other scenes as well. So you can see I run the Natura. We also have a couple variants. So there's a push version. Okay, the 160 push has also been updated. And the I'm sorry, Natura. The 160 push has been updated to Gen 2, and the new 800 variant, kind of my concept variant, just for variety, has also been updated as well. It has more contrast. It's, well, honestly, very versatile also. Okay, so you can choose from either of these. The push one has a little bit of variable to push those lights up even more. And of course, like any real push in the darkroom would do, that affects also the way the colors render and things like that. If you go to Natura 1600 Gen 2, which is your base, you can look here at how it renders greens, kind of has those Fuji greens, the skin tones. I put a lot into the skin tones. There's a certain red, beautiful undertone to Natura, but it's also very tricky because it's really easy to overdo reds on skin tones. And so I've done a lot of balancing on this. The grain is really subtle and really nice. I'm going to tell you something about grain. Again, raw file, you can see that the Natura, it just brings out the light in a way that's really beautiful. And if it's even too light, because Natura is pretty bright, don't be afraid to turn it down a little bit or turn it up a little bit to create an even more high key effect. This carries over as well, and it works on, well, anything. So it works on the landscapes, on everything. And you can see how it just does really, all three of them really do lush, beautiful things to the way the greens are. So you can see here out of camera, nothing wrong with it, but there's an organic naturalness. Now you might look at this and say, I don't want that level of grain on a landscape, and that's fine. Here's something I've noticed people creating film presets doing. They leave the grain out, and then they just throw in some other presets to add grain in later. In Filmist, every grain is customized for each film to try and recreate that film as best as possible. However, if you're like, oh, I'm gonna go to Photoshop, I don't want that grain, I don't wanna build up artifacts, or you're just like, hey, I don't like that grain, you can always go up here to the top of Filmist. There's actually a reset detail and grain button, so it'll leave all your color and stuff alone, but it'll reset your grain right up here in the top category. And you can also apply a different grain variant like low ISO filmic to get a lower ISO look, for example. So you absolutely do not have to stick to the grain that I've put here in Natura 1600. I just tried to create a grain combination that was reminiscent of how Natura 1600, Superior 1600 actually is. All right, street as well. And you can see this is a little dark. I'm gonna push it up just a little bit, all right? And right here, you can see it just really kind of brings out that Natura street color that it's just good. I don't know, I like it, it's great. I'm finding, and this is something I did a lot of testing on in the Gen 2 to make it versatile. It's almost like no matter where you put it, it works. If you're doing weddings, even if you have scenes like this one that are dark and badly lit, that look kind of boring, I can lift the exposure a little bit and then just apply Natura and still get a really great looking look. And of course, in a case like this, remember, my presets don't screw with your white balance or your exposure because they're variables that just end up making a mess and they make presets not work. So if you look and you're like, oh no, it's still too cool, that's a white balance issue. And don't be afraid to go in and just tweak that white balance a little bit to get your look, to make it look a little more Natura, to make it look a little more whatever you're going for, right? But you can see that it's a very, very powerful result that just works versatilely in a lot of different situations. This, guys, is Natura 1600 as well as the new Natura E800. Which is just my own concept variant, brings in a little more contrast. It's my imagination of if there was a Natura 1800 like this is what it would be like. But the one that is really true to form is that Natura 1600 Gen 2 and the Natura 1600 Push. I think you're gonna find that it's works on everything. If you're a Natura or Superior shooter, I think you're gonna really love this. It's gonna take you back and you're gonna love the results that it gets you. I've showed you guys kind of the settings. So if you want to play around in Lightroom with your Lightroom skills and tweak with some of your own Natura settings, go for it, do it, make it happen. And you can kind of use some of the sliders that I showed you, the curves, as an example to get you there. But if you're a Filmist user, absolutely make sure you download this. If you're not a Filmist user, please check it out. Consider supporting the Filmist project that I keep working on and investing a lot of time in this channel. SeimFX.com/Filmist, and I'll put a link in the notes. And you can go over there right now and download a free pack that has one of the new Gen 2 Portra and a couple other great film presets, some of my favorites from Filmist. in there on the page on seimfx.com/Filmist. Let me know if you ever use Filmist, what you guys think of Filmist. I mean, Natura. Let me know. I'm tired. It's been a long week, okay? Let me know your memories of using Superior or Natura. Did you guys ever play with this film? And let me know what you're thinking of this result. I've had the Natura 1600 look for a long time, but this new Gen 2 version is so much improved. It's so much more versatile. It's so much more natural and so much more true to form, just like the new Portra Gen 2s are in Filmist. So check it out, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time. Go play with that color and get filmy.